Hi, this is Tyson, and today we are going to be using curried functions to make our styled components more testable and easier to test at a glance, instead of having to test each individual prop that you're declaring. So what you can do is in JavaScript or in any programming language, a curried function is basically if you have a function. So we'll make a function named hi, and the first argument would be argument 1, second argument would be argument 2. So it takes 2 arguments. So you could either call hi by passing argument 1 and argument 2. So that's just the regular way you would call the function. But a curried function allows you to call the first argument, so you call argument 1, and then you would call argument 2 by calling the function again. And the trick here is that the function wouldn't actually execute until you've passed in both of the arguments. So you could either call it like this, or you could call it like this. But the ability to call it the second way allows you to create a variable. So let's say this this is our variable, so we have a variable called 1, and then we could call 1 passing in the second argument. And so that's kind of the benefit of using a curried function instead of just using a regular function. So currying isn't available out of the box in JavaScript, but you can install a utility library that has it. So for example, a utility library like Lodash has currying. Another one is a utility library that I use and almost exclusively use these days. Is called Ramda. So I'm going to go ahead and install Ramda, npm install ramda-d to put it in my dev dependencies. And once it finishes installing, I can actually import a curry from Ramda. So I can say import, pull in curry from Ramda. So now I could create a curried function that gives me basically what I want from here. So we're going to make a function called path, and basically what we want is we want it to take our props as the second argument, and we want it to take the path, which would be like an array of all of the things, so like theme and primary color, as our first argument. So now basically how we're going to want to call this is to call path, pass in theme, primary color. And since props is the first argument here in this function that we're creating here, is actually going to be once this executes, it's going to basically call it by passing in the props from the function. So it would basically be the same as doing this, except instead of doing this, we can take off this part, and it will just execute right away once it has all of the arguments. So now, basically what we would do is we would do something like return the props with the first part of the path of path 0, and then the second part of the path, so path 1. But of course we would need to curry this function first, so we'll wrap this in a curry. Expected token on 744. Okay, so there we go. Reload that. It says path is not a function, but it is a function because it's right here. Could be that we need to define it beforehand. Alright, so now we could just log what's being passed in here. So we'll log the path and the props. And we will debug this remotely, so theme primary color exists on props. Let's make sure we're returning that correctly. Here's our problem. So we wrap these in brackets and that will actually return what we want. Alright, so we're going to take this back off because that's not needed anymore. And so now we've got our curried function and it's returning what we want. So a convenience function that that Ramda actually gives you is a function called path. So we could actually take path and replace our path with it. And it's actually doing exactly what ours did, except even better. And so now we have this point-free function that we've created, and it's got and we're just passing in the path to where in the object that we're going to be passing in that we want it to be. So it's going to look at props, theme, primary color, and then it will pull it right up. So we could go through and do this to all of our components. So we'll import path from Ramda here, and here we just do path and theme background color. And then in this header we would just import the path from Ramda again. Import theme and header color. And we'll import path here, theme and text and verse. And there we go. So now, since of course path is already tested in Ramda, we know that's going to work, and so we don't have to do quite as much testing to make sure that all these components work once we finally get to our testing stage. So using currying could be really beneficial for a lot of things in your application, and I would highly recommend it for things exactly like this.